1. Conservatism. Conservatism is a political ideology that emphasizes the preservation of traditional values, institutions, and social structures. At its core, conservatism seeks to maintain stability by resisting rapid societal changes. It values the wisdom embedded in long-standing traditions and is cautious about embracing radical reforms. Key principles. Tradition. Conservatism places a high value on cultural and historical traditions, seeing them as the foundation of societal order. Order and authority. Conservatives believe in the necessity of a strong authority and order to prevent societal chaos. Skepticism of change. The ideology is inherently skeptical of abrupt changes and advocates for a gradual approach to social and political transformations. 2. Liberalism. Liberalism is a political philosophy that prioritizes individual freedoms, equality, and the protection of human rights. It emerged as a response to authoritarianism and feudalism, advocating for democratic governance, civil liberties, and economic freedom. Key principles: individual rights. Liberals emphasize the protection of individual rights and freedoms, including freedom of speech, religion, and equality under the law. Equality. Liberals advocate for equal opportunities and treatment for all individuals, irrespective of their background. Government role in social justice. While valuing individual freedoms, liberals recognize the role of government in addressing social inequalities and ensuring fairness. 3. Moderatism. Moderatism, also known as centrism, is a political stance that seeks a balanced and pragmatic approach, avoiding extreme positions. Moderates value compromise and cooperation to address political and social challenges. Key principles: compromise. Moderates prioritize finding common ground and compromising on policies to achieve a balanced approach. Avoidance of extremes. Moderates reject extreme ideologies and policies, favoring a middle-of-the-road stance that considers diverse perspectives. Stability and cooperation. Moderates value political stability and cooperation among different factions to maintain a functioning and harmonious society. 4. Capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system characterized by private ownership of the means of production and the pursuit of profit. In a capitalist system, prices and wages are determined by competition in a free market, and the government's role is generally limited to enforcing contracts and protecting property rights. Key principles: private ownership. Capitalism relies on private individuals or corporations owning and controlling the means of production. Market competition. Prices and wages are determined by market competition, fostering efficiency and innovation. Profit motive. The pursuit of profit is a central driving force in capitalist economies. 5. Socialism. Socialism is an economic and political ideology advocating for collective or government ownership and control of the means of production. The goal is to reduce economic inequality by distributing wealth more equitably and ensuring that everyone has access to basic necessities. Key principles: collective ownership. Socialism seeks to shift ownership and control of key industries and resources to the community or the state. Economic equality. The aim is to reduce disparities in wealth and ensure a more equitable distribution of resources. Social safety nets. Socialists often advocate for robust social safety nets, including healthcare, education, and social welfare programs. 6. Syndicalism. Syndicalism is a labor movement that advocates for the establishment of a society in which workers, organized into unions or syndicates, control and manage industries. It emphasizes direct action, including strikes and boycotts, as a means to achieve these goals. Key principles: worker control. Syndicalism seeks to transfer control and management of industries to the workers themselves. Direct action. The movement emphasizes direct action, such as strikes and boycotts, as a way to bring about change. Solidarity. Syndicalism often emphasizes the importance of solidarity among workers in different industries. 7. Corporatism. Corporatism is a political and economic system in which major industries are organized into corporative groups, often with strong government involvement in economic planning. It aims to promote collaboration between the state, businesses, and workers. Key principles: collaboration. Corporatism seeks to foster collaboration between the state, corporations, and labor unions. Economic planning. The government plays a significant role in economic planning, often coordinating with corporative groups. Stability. Corporatism aims to create a stable economic and social environment through collaboration and planning. 8. Libertarianism. Libertarianism is a political philosophy emphasizing individual liberty, limited government intervention, and a free market economy. It places a strong emphasis on personal freedom, individual rights, and voluntary interactions. Key principles: individual liberty. Libertarians prioritize personal freedom and autonomy, advocating for minimal government interference in personal lives. Limited government. The philosophy promotes a government with limited powers, focusing primarily on protecting individual rights and maintaining order. Free market economy. Libertarians support a free market economic system, arguing that it encourages innovation and individual prosperity. 9. Separatism, secessionism. Separatism or secessionism is the advocacy for the independence or separation of a region or group from a larger political entity. It often stems from cultural, ethnic, or historical differences and a desire for self-governance. Key principles: self-governance. Separatists seek autonomy and the ability to govern themselves independently. Cultural or ethnic identity. Often, separatist movements are driven by a desire to preserve or assert distinct cultural or ethnic identities. Political independence. The goal is to establish a separate political entity distinct from the larger nation or state. 10. Communism. Communism is a political and economic ideology advocating for a classless society where the means of production are collectively owned and wealth is distributed based on need. It envisions a stateless and egalitarian society. Key principles: collective ownership. Communism seeks to eliminate private ownership of the means of production, emphasizing communal ownership. Classless society. The goal is to eliminate social classes, creating a society with equal access to resources and opportunities. Abolition of the state. Communism envisions a society where the state becomes obsolete and governance is based on voluntary cooperation. 11. Feminism. Feminism is a social and political movement advocating for the equality of the genders. It addresses issues related to women's rights, including legal, social, and economic equality, as well as challenging traditional gender roles. Key principles: gender equality. Feminism seeks to eliminate discrimination based on gender, striving for equal rights and opportunities for all genders. Challenging patriarchy. The movement challenges traditional power structures that favor men, advocating for a more inclusive and egalitarian society. Intersectionality. Modern feminism often incorporates intersectionality, recognizing the interconnected nature of social identities, including race, class, and sexuality. 12. Anarchism. Anarchism is a political philosophy advocating for the abolition of government and hierarchical structures. Anarchists envision a society based on voluntary cooperation, where individuals govern themselves without the need for a centralized authority. Key principles: stateless society. Anarchism seeks to eliminate the state as a governing entity, emphasizing voluntary and decentralized forms of organization. Voluntary cooperation. The philosophy promotes the idea that individuals can organize and govern themselves through voluntary cooperation, without coercion. Anti-hierarchy. Anarchists reject hierarchical structures, aiming for egalitarian and non-coercive relationships. 13. Environmentalism. Environmentalism is a social and political movement focused on the protection of the environment and sustainable practices. It addresses issues such as pollution, climate change, and the conservation of natural resources. Key principles: ecological preservation. Environmentalism emphasizes the importance of preserving ecosystems and biodiversity. Sustainable practices. The movement advocates for practices that do not deplete natural resources and minimize environmental impact. Climate advocacy. Environmentalists work towards addressing climate change through policies and actions aimed at reducing carbon emissions. 14. Populism. Populism is a political approach that claims to represent the interests of the common people against an alleged corrupt or elitist establishment. It often involves charismatic leaders who appeal to the emotions and grievances of the majority. Key principles: representation of the majority. Populism claims to represent the interests of the majority, often against perceived elites. Charismatic leadership. Populist movements are often led by charismatic figures who connect emotionally with the masses. Anti-establishment rhetoric. Populism typically involves criticism of established political elites, institutions, and the status quo. 15. Republicanism. Republicanism is a political ideology emphasizing the importance of a representative government and the rule of law. It draws inspiration from classical republicanism, which values civic virtue and the common good. Key principles: representative governance. Republicans advocate for representative institutions where elected officials act on behalf of the public. Civic virtue. Republicanism emphasizes the importance of civic virtue and active participation in the political process. Rule of law. The ideology supports a legal framework that applies equally to all citizens, preventing arbitrary rule. 16. Progressivism. Progressivism is a political movement advocating for social and political reform. It emerged in response to the social and economic challenges of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, aiming to address issues such as inequality, corruption, and social injustice. Key principles: social reform. Progressives seek to address societal issues through legislative and social reforms. Government intervention. The movement supports government intervention to correct social and economic injustices. Civil liberties. Progressives often champion civil liberties and individual rights in their pursuit of social justice. 17. Imperialism. Imperialism is a policy or ideology advocating for the extension of a nation's power and influence through colonization, military force, or economic dominance over other territories or nations. Key principles: expansionism. Imperialism involves the expansion of a nation's territorial or economic influence beyond its borders. Colonization. Imperialist powers may establish colonies to extract resources and assert control over distant territories. National prestige. Imperialism is often motivated by a desire for national prestige, economic gain, or strategic advantage. 18. Egalitarianism. Egalitarianism is a political and social philosophy emphasizing equality among individuals, advocating for equal opportunities, treatment, and outcomes irrespective of background or identity. Key principles: equal opportunities. Egalitarianism seeks to ensure that all individuals have equal opportunities to succeed and pursue their goals. Social justice. The philosophy aims to address systemic inequalities and promote fairness in societal structures. Anti-discrimination. Egalitarians advocate against discrimination based on race, gender, socioeconomic status, or other factors. 19. Transhumanism. Transhumanism is a movement that explores and supports the use of technology to enhance human abilities and characteristics. It envisions a future where technology improves human cognition, physical capabilities, and longevity. Key principles: technological enhancement. Transhumanism advocates for the use of technology to augment human capabilities beyond natural limitations. Longevity. The movement explores technologies that could extend human lifespans and improve overall health. Ethical considerations. Transhumanists engage in discussions about the ethical implications of enhancing human abilities and potential risks. 20. Communitarianism. Communitarianism is a social and political philosophy that emphasizes the importance of community and shared values in shaping political and social decisions. It seeks a balance between individual rights and the welfare of the community. Key principles: community focus. Communitarianism prioritizes the well-being of the community over individual interests. Shared values. The philosophy emphasizes the importance of shared values and cultural cohesion within a community. Balancing rights. Communitarians seek to balance individual rights with the common good to foster a cohesive and supportive society. 21. Authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is a form of government characterized by strong central authority, limited political freedoms, and often a lack of checks and balances. The government typically exercises significant control over political, social, and economic aspects of society. Key principles: centralized authority. Authoritarian regimes concentrate power in a centralized authority, often with a single leader or ruling party. Limited political freedoms. Authoritarian governments restrict political freedoms, such as freedom of speech, assembly, and opposition activities. Controlled economy. Authoritarian states may exert control over the economy, limiting individual economic freedoms. 22. Fascism. Fascism is an authoritarian political ideology characterized by dictatorial power, extreme nationalism, and often suppression of dissent. It emerged in the early 20th century and gained prominence in Europe during the interwar period. Key principles: authoritarian rule. Fascism advocates for a strong, centralized government led by a single authoritarian leader. Nationalism. Fascist ideologies often emphasize extreme nationalism, promoting the interests of the nation above all else. Suppression of dissent. Fascist regimes may employ censorship and suppression of political opposition to maintain control. 23. Nazism. Nazism is a specific form of fascism associated with Adolf Hitler's ideology in Nazi Germany. It is characterized by extreme racial and anti-Semitic beliefs, expansionist policies, and the establishment of a totalitarian state. Key principles: racial supremacy. Nazism promotes the idea of Aryan racial superiority and seeks to establish a racially homogeneous state. Anti-Semitism. The ideology includes virulent anti-Semitic beliefs, leading to persecution and genocide against Jews. Totalitarianism. Nazi Germany was a totalitarian state with complete control over political, social, and economic aspects of society. Subscribe and watch for more wisdom.